Instead of fixing the final feed, you treat the raw ingredients before you even formulate.
You detoxify them. The foundational strategy here is fermentation. This is a controlled biological treatment using fungal or bacterial cells like Aspergillus or specific bacillus strains.
They pre-digest the ingredient for the fish.
That's it. And it's profoundly effective, especially for things like soybean meal. It increases protein solubility, reduces crude fiber, and it just demolishes key ANFs.
A whole new era of communication in the global aquaculture industry is coming. Now you have the brightest minds in aquaculture right in your pocket. And what's best? You can listen to all of them while driving to a farm, traveling, or running errands. It's never been this good, and it's never been this simple. Welcome to the Aquaculture Podcast Show, the first AI-based podcast in aquaculture, where you'll find cutting-edge insights in everything that's working in aquaculture, nutrition, health, and production. Inspired by the 2022 article titled, Dietary Strategies for Better Utilization of Aquafeeds in Tilapia Farming by Gule, Thandile T, and Akewake Geremew.
Let's get straight to it. The economic reality in tilapia production is, well, it's forcing a major strategic pivot.
It absolutely is.
We're all moving away from these finite, expensive marine resources, fish meal, fish oil, and shifting pretty aggressively toward plant-based ingredients.
For cost reasons, primarily.
Of course. But that shift, it's not a free lunch. It comes with a steep technical price. These plant sources are just loaded with anti-nutritional factors, ANFs.
And they're inherently harder for the fish to digest.
Exactly. So the result is a severely depressed nutrient utilization efficiency, the NUE.
And that's the whole game, isn't it? That's why we're doing this deep dive, digging into the review by Gule and Geremew on dietary strategies.
Right.
We're looking at their three primary paths: functional feed additives, ingredient processing, and genetic selection.
Why Genetics turns podcast airtime into brand authority. We don't sell ads, we elevate voices. Curious how far your voice can go to become a reference in the industry and attract more leads? Scan the QR code and discover how we can turn your expertise into unmatched brand authority. Let's transform expertise into influence, starting now.
It's not just about profitability. I mean, it is, but it's also about minimizing waste and not wrecking water quality in these intensive systems.
A great way to frame it. Layers of defense. So let's start with that first layer, the most immediate one. Functional feed additives. These are the things we add to, patch the holes that plant materials create. We're talking enzymes, beneficial microorganisms, that sort of thing.
And if you're formulating with something like soybean meal, your first line of attack has to be enzymatic. It has to be.
Because the nutrients are essentially locked away.
They're locked away behind structures the fish just can't process naturally. The classic example is phytase. Tilapia simply don't produce the intestinal enzyme they need to break down phytate.
And phytate is everywhere in plant ingredients, isn't it?
It's everywhere. Up to 70% of the total phosphorus can be tied up in it. So if you don't add phytase, that phosphorus isn't just wasted. It actively binds up minerals like calcium, and crucially, it tanks the bioavailability of your proteins and amino acids.
You're just pouring money and nutrients straight into the pond.
You are. Adding exogenous phytase turns that pollutant into a source of available inorganic phosphorus. It's a game changer.
Okay, that handles the mineral challenge. But what about the bulk structure of the plant matter itself, the stuff that makes it so tough to digest?
That's where your second key enzyme comes in. Xylanase. A big reason for low digestibility in these feeds is the non-starch polysaccharides, the NSPs.
The cell wall structures.
Exactly. Xylanase gets in there and breaks down components like hemicellulose. And by doing that, you're essentially opening up the entire feed particle. You're letting the tilapia get at the carbohydrates for energy. It's a huge gain.
But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. You move from the lab to the real world, and the review makes it clear that enzymes are not a silver bullet.
Oh, not at all. That nuance is absolutely paramount for any nutritionist. The effectiveness depends entirely on the diet.
Right.
The data showed that adding enzymes to diets with, say, wheat bran or sunflower meal, it gave solid results. With the wheat bran diet, they saw the FCR, the feed conversion ratio, improve from 1.00 down to 0.92.
And an 8% swing in FCR when you scale that up globally?
It's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And significantly less waste.
But the flip side, the cautionary part, was the citrus pulp diet.
Correct. When they used the same enzyme package on that diet, performance didn't improve. And that's the strategic insight. You have to match the enzyme to this specific ANF. If you've got complex carbohydrates that xylanase can tackle, great. If you have a diet high in pectin, you need a different tool. Otherwise, the investment is just wasted.
Let's shift gears a bit to the living components of this strategy, probiotics and prebiotics.
Now we're moving beyond simple digestion into long-term gut health.
Yeah.
Probiotics, these are live microorganisms, often bacillus species. You add them to actively shift that intestinal microbial balance for the better.
And prebiotics are the food for them, basically.
Exactly. Things like oligosaccharides, they feed those beneficial microorganisms, which in turn improves zootechnical performance and, importantly, bolsters the immune response.
So the idea of combining them, getting a synergistic effect enzymes plus probiotics, that seems like the ultimate goal for Anyway.
That potential for synergy is huge. Adeoye and colleagues showed that combining phytase, xylanase, and protease with a bacillus blend improved final body weight, growth rate, and FCR. It worked.
But it's not guaranteed.
It is not, and we have to acknowledge that. The work by Moz and his colleagues showed that synergy doesn't always happen, which forces you to ask, why not? What's happening in the gut?
And the proposed answer comes down to the gut chemistry itself, doesn't it?
It does. And this is where it gets technically very challenging. Certain beneficial microorganisms, like Bacillus amyloliquefaciens, they actively alter the gut environment. They can lower the pH.
Okay.
Now, that pH change might be good for the microorganism, but it can actually reduce the efficiency of your supplemental enzymes, which often perform best at a more neutral pH. So two beneficial things can end up working against each other.
That's a critical detail. It shows formulation isn't just about adding more good stuff. It's about a precise technical balance.
Which brings us to the second layer of defense, ingredient processing.
Right. Instead of fixing the final feed, you treat the raw ingredients before you even formulate.
You detoxify them. The foundational strategy here is fermentation. This is a controlled biological treatment using fungal or bacterial cells like Aspergillus or specific bacillus strains.
They pre-digest the ingredient for the fish.
That's it. And it's profoundly effective, especially for things like soybean meal. It increases protein solubility, reduces crude fiber, and it just demolishes key ANFs. Hong and colleagues found that fermented soybean meal eliminated most of the trypsin inhibitor.
Which is a huge problem for protein digestion.
A huge problem. But fermentation also enhances the ingredient. In that same study, the crude protein actually increased by about 10%. Plus, you get better palatability and water stability. It's a double win.
And the other core method is something everyone deals with daily. Heat treatment.
It's non-negotiable. You need it for pellet quality to make sure the feed holds together, but functionally, you need it to inactivate those heat-sensitive ANFs. Autoclaving soybean meal at, say, 130 degrees for 40 minutes was shown to significantly improve growth and feed utilization.
But the challenge there is that fine line, that knife's edge between necessary heat and destructive heat.
Absolutely. Precise thermal management is critical. Too much heat, and you kick off the Maillard reaction, destroying your essential amino acids, specifically lysine and methionine.
And if you destroy those, you've compromised the entire diet.
Completely. It's a classic production bottleneck where small process variations have major nutritional consequences.
Okay, so we've covered additives and processing. Let's move to the really cutting-edge strategy, genetic leverage. Building a better fish for these diets from the ground up.
This strategy changes the entire equation. Instead of fixing the feed, you optimize the consumer. The goal of genetic selection is to engineer a fish that inherently grows faster, has more muscle, and just has a better feed conversion efficiency from day one.
And the evidence cited by Cabezas and colleagues on transgenic tilapia is, well, it's very compelling.
It's a profound example. The hybrid tilapia they worked with, the O. hornerum, crossed with O. aureus, the difference was clear. After 275 days, the transgenic fish hit an average of 384 grams.
Compared to 314 for the non-transgenic.
Right, that's a huge differential. It accelerates the production cycle dramatically.
So we can breed a fish that just outpaces its natural counterpart. But I imagine the real challenge isn't just making it grow faster, it's understanding the how.
Precisely. That is the frontier. We have massive information gaps there. The phenotypic results, a bigger fish, is clear, but the influence of that genetic profile on the underlying nutrient utilization pathways, it's still severely understudied.
And then there's the whole complication of the environment itself.
Absolutely. The genotype-by-environment interaction. A fish that thrives on a plant-based diet in a perfect lab setting might perform very differently when you put it in a commercial pond with variable temperatures and water quality.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for the industry? The shift to plant-based diets demands a multi-front technical approach. There's no single solution.
And that brings us to the biggest challenge today, the research gaps. We need a holistic approach, but we're operating with fragmented knowledge. We lack systematic, localized data. We don't know which specific combination of additives works best with a given regional diet under specific culture conditions.
That lack of localized data turns customized formulation into, well, a bit of a generalized guessing game.
It does, and that's why this is the question to leave our listeners with. We know nutritional needs vary dramatically with age, weight, and environmental conditions. So how can the industry better use digital and monitoring technology to move away from these static, lab-formulated recommendations? The goal has to be real-time, dynamic dietary strategies that optimize NUE at every single phase of the grow-out cycle. That's the holy grail.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the Aquaculture Podcast Show on your favorite platform. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook to stay updated on the latest episodes and industry insights. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.